on modernization and automation, and that's across, infrastructure, cloud, monitoring, observability, networking, security, a plethora of solutions. And we hone in on a topic that's called, what we call modern operations. And you'll hear some of the themes of that here this afternoon with Michael and I. The whole simple notion behind modern operations, how I describe it, every organization, unless they've been born in the cloud in the last 12, 18 months, has some level of technology investment, unfortunately, probably some level of technology debt. So how do we help clients modernize, automate, gain efficiencies to change it where they're spending 70% of their resources on just running the day-to-day to spending 70% on helping the business grow for tomorrow. So you'll hear us talk a little bit about that as we go throughout the session today. So obviously the topic is just some, what we term some top technology investments that we see many of our clients undertaking, exploring, working with us on here as we go into 2022. And so we wanted to share those with you. So we started with 5, we added in a bonus 6th one, and we'll explain why we did that at the end. So we'll kind of go through those. And our intent is just, high level of what each of those topics are. And then either where we're seeing clients investing or some things that we're working on or some possible use cases to get you thinking along the same lines. So the first one here is really around data resilience. And obviously many of you have been in technology and in the industry for several years. And HR, HA, DR, data protection, business continuity, all the buzzwords obviously have been around since we've all been doing this. But I would say the needs around what we call data resilience now are more critical than ever. We are faced every day with, tens of dozens of thousands of hundreds of thousands, in some cases, threats and attacks against our businesses. We see it with our clients, and so how do organizations ensure they are protected? And it's obviously risk mitigation. It's what level of risk are you willing to undertake? But it's also about ensuring consistency. And I think as we look at what our clients are doing this year and where there's a ton of effort is, are we actually consistent in our policies, our tools, our procedures, what we expect of our teams? And by the way, do we as a company know what our risk tolerance is? And this for so long got thrown on the IT teams to ensure there's those policies. Honestly, I would hypothesize this really has nothing to do with technology. It's a business decision, risk decision. Technology is there to be a part of that and support that. And so that's, as we look at, what's going to happen here this year, I think there's a lot of work that's going in data protection, data resilience around public cloud. And as we see, obviously the cloud spend increases, you all see the same numbers we do and see what the transformation there is. Unfortunately, there's a big myth in some people that in some organizations still today that just because if I put it in the cloud, it's protected and I don't have to worry about it. And that could be so, that's so not true. And so what we're seeing is a lot more integration between, those really resilient policies around on-premise data and clients and organizations really then trying to make sure they have that consistent policy, procedure, tools, expectations, outcomes with their cloud data. And at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter where that data is at. It's having that one viewpoint across all of the data, no matter where it's at. And the more consistent we are, the better policies we have, the more the organization and all of us should know the risk tolerance, and also that we should be saving time and resources for the team instead of doing redundant tasks every single day to really go focus on what they need to and go help grow the business. So Michael, I'm curious from your perspective, can you share a little bit maybe from use case or client example of where else we're seeing this right now?
Sure. And the other thing, I would just want to extend what Bo was just talking about, which is that consistent policy and procedure is one thing that's a key tenet of modern operations. Is we don't, our clients are struggling to be able to have two sets of policies and procedures, one for on-prem and one for in the cloud. Cloud just introduces a new kind of architecture, a new solution, and finding the right processes and tools and procedures to integrate the two things is crucial. And oftentimes, especially in data resilience, it's going from that policy and procedure to how do you do it. You need to make different choices when a hybrid cloud environment is involved. You may want to back up to a public cloud environment, for example, but that completely alters how you think about recovery and coming back up to speed. You may need to have resilience across multiple public cloud providers. We've seen outages pretty frequently in the last month from a couple of the major ones. So understanding how you deliver resilience even when you're doing that. And then probably as importantly, and this is something we're working with a number of clients on, is what are the applications that really need that level of resilience? So as you develop new kinds of applications, new capabilities, do they need, the cloud is probably the best place to go build new things. Is the resilience that you build out there adequate? Do you need to have resilience that includes on-premise? If it's down for, 4 hours, is that really an application that is going to directly impact your business versus, say, a warehouse management system or a financial transaction system that clearly could lose you millions of dollars in just a matter of a few minutes? So understanding your application portfolio and the risk profile of those applications is sort of the next layer down from those consistent policies and procedures. So this is, to Bo's point, this is something we're working with a lot of clients on, really trying to take it from that workload perspective. How do you know that the whole environment is going to be protected and come back up? Working with clients replicating data to clouds on a wide variety of technologies. Backup and recovery is just one place where that happens. A lot of times people are moving data to cloud to do things that are more around test and development. So getting the proper data set there and then making sure it's properly secured, properly accessed, that's a critical piece of it. The other thing that we're seeing, and I know we all are dealing with, is ransomware. And how ransomware gets dealt with as part of a cybersecurity threat is another key component of it. And a lot of the, call it next generation data center solution or data protection solutions that have come on the market in the last 4 or 5 years that really take advantage of cloud-like disciplines offer some new capabilities around data resilience that really are that are interesting in terms of cyber protection, cybersecurity, and ransomware protection. So that really leads us, in my opinion, into the next topic, which is really around zero trust. And this is another key theme that we're seeing a lot of. To be perfectly frank, zero trust is become a gigantic buzzword in the industry. It's about what cloud was about 10 or 15 years ago. It's sort of the thing that everybody talks about, and everybody has a different definition of what it's for. Really, for us, this is where what we talk about is you're no longer in a moat and castle kind of environment, and for your data security and your IT security, you really are in a place that in the pandemic has massively accelerated this, where you've got users coming from a variety of places. That's just one leg of the stool. You're doing development in a variety of places and connecting the people and the IT assets. Maybe it's a sensor, maybe it's a IoT device, to the things that it needs to connect to, and only the things that it needs to connect to, is a really critical piece of all of this together. So Bo, I know that you've had a couple conversations with clients recently where zero trust was sort of the main topic that they wanted to spend time on.
Yep, and I think you hit it on the head. It's a buzzword, and it's so big, right? And so I think the way we position it with clients, kind of along the lines of what you were talking about there, Michael, and also into that last bullet on the slide there. This is such a large endeavor, topic, focus area. Where do you start? And if I'm a business that has been in operation for 50 years, where do I start? And so we were recently with the leadership of a pretty large healthcare system, several thousand beds, a lot of hospitals, clinics, dozens of facilities. They're in an industry that is continually under cost pressure, but they're also in an industry that is seeing an exorbitant increase in attacks and threats every single day. They don't have the money and the resources, though, just to swap out everything they have and go create a new framework or go create a new strategy around this. So where we really talked with them and their team, and where we're working with them, is what is the most vulnerable area, right? Let's go pick an area where you have most concern. And in this case, not all of our industries we can say, life or death. In the healthcare industry, obviously that is a critical part of that. And so without naming the applications and the pieces that we're working on there, they said this is a critical part of our business. It's a critical part of the client care and patient care. And so we're working with them on really looking at the threat matrix around those applications, around that environment, both internal and external. And we're going to shore up some policies and some tools there. We're going to leverage what they've got. We're going to augment it with some other solutions, but we're going to really try and focus in on that one area. From there, it will continue to expand over a couple of years of how they create this framework and this new mindset and ideology. But we're going to start small and grow out, because they can't afford to rip and replace and go create this new area from scratch. So I think that's the key part for me, Michael, as we talk about this, is start somewhere, start small and grow from there.
Absolutely.
And I think then that obviously then I think leads into the next topic as well, because as we talk about, having these viewpoints or this understanding of not only the business and the processes, the applications, the workflows, for us, we call it observability. And you hear many words out there in the industry, and it could be as simplistic as infrastructure monitoring, to network monitoring, to application performance management monitoring. We really see here in 2022 and late last year into this year, every single company, everybody, all of us will say we have monitoring solutions, and everybody will say we have more monitoring solutions than we know what to do with. Well, that's true, but are we actually taking a holistic view and looking at it, observing it from end to end across all of those aspects? And I would surmise most organizations are not. And so how do we integrate all of these data inputs from a myriad of tools and resources and have a holistic viewpoint of this? And I think probably an easy example that I always use is around our banking application, right? Got my phone right here. I expect when I log on to my bank's application, I know that part of their data is coming from, on-premise data centers. I know that part of their data is coming from their cloud providers. I know that my credit score is coming from a third-party API connector, that they're leveraging. But if that app is down, I don't really care whose fault it is. I'm going to blame the bank. So how does the bank have that full stack observability across that entire business process, that workflow that affects me, the end user? And that's a critical part of observability, I believe, that we don't probably talk about enough, but it's that end user experience. That's really what we care about. And that could be an employee experience, that could be a client experience, it could be a vendor partner experience, supply chain, whatever it is for your business. But again, I, as the end user, don't care where the problem lies. I don't want to hear it's the third party. It's the bank. And so that's really what I think about when we go through this. And then the key for this too is automate all of this and making sure that we have that consistent automation across that entire stack, bringing all these pieces together.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. The automation is critical because really observability gets you the insight into what's going on in your IT estate, whether it's on-premise or off-premise or public cloud. We're working with a client right now that's a healthcare provider that it has a lot of, in fact, the vast majority of their applications are traditional commercial off-the-shelf applications. Some of those are challenging to monitor. Some of those are challenging to observe what's going on with them, but the clinicians don't care. So healthcare is particularly interesting because you've got really two sets of people that you need to make sure are well cared for. One is your patients, of course. You need to make sure you're delivering the best care you can, and that's a huge, not just mission statement for many hospitals and providers, but it's a key financial piece for them as well. So making sure that that's going well, but also making sure that your clinicians and care providers, who especially now are burnt out and exhausted, are able to do their jobs easily without having to have the challenges of an IT system that they're interacting with. So helping this client instrument both sort of their traditional over-the-counter applications, as well as being able to instrument and observe some of the more advanced, microservices-driven on-premise clusters that they're using to build out new applications on top of Kubernetes. A lot of them for client-facing or patient-facing type workloads, and being able to pull that together and being able to see that end-to-end, being able to understand how that all works together has been a really critical piece of what we've been doing with them. Yeah, we did have a quick question show up in the chat around the difficulty of implementing zero trust versus traditional VPN. And I'll just quickly say it depends a lot on how you set it up. Would love to get into a deeper conversation about that with our network team. It really, there's a lot of factors that go into that. That's not really, unfortunately, not a really easy, straightforward yes or no answer. But that, and honestly, that's what actually goes into all of these things. These trends, you can absolutely implement any of these trends in a way that makes your environment more complicated, more difficult to maintain. The goal and what we're bringing to our clients or working with our clients to attain is the simplification. So you're able to use maybe a traditional technology like a VPN as part of your stack while you're still taking advantage of some of the zero trust capabilities that are out there, for example. And I think that resonates across all of the topics. So Bo touched on this a bit, that sort of automation everywhere, integrate that it's a critical piece of everything that we do, and everything that our clients are doing. This is an interesting topic because there's an awful lot of industry press right now about automation, and a lot of it is focused around the talent pool and labor shortages and all of the changes in the availability of talent in the market. And there really is this big push towards, call it business process automation. How do I make the things that are outside of my IT organization function better? I think we've all had lots of interactions with whether it's chatbots when you're doing customer service or some kind of system like that, and the things that are behind that, the AI that kind of makes those things work. Sometimes it's great. I know that in my house, my wife would prefer to go interact with the chat function a lot of times rather than getting on the phone to deal with somebody. And a lot of times that's automated behind the scenes. She probably no person at all that's giving her the answers to some of the things that she's looking for. But from an IT operations perspective, it's all about how do you build out the capability to support that business automation. That's where a lot of the business starts to see value. You're going to see value as an IT leader in building out that automation, because that's going to increase your productivity, increase your ability to focus on more complex problems. But really having that foundation built so that the business can take advantage of some of those larger trends is a really critical piece of this. And integrated is a key word, because as we start automating things, automating is not just pulling things together or doing something that you do a few times in an automated way. It really is, how do you make tools function together more efficiently?
Yep, and I think that's a key part, Michael. And you joke about the chatbots. If you can't tell, I'm in a hotel room. I'm out of town on vacation, and I've only been communicating with the hotel via their bot, their chat. I didn't even know there's a phone in the room, so I apologize. When the phone rang, I was like, oh, I didn't even know there's a phone, because I never make phone calls anymore. But I think, as you're talking about, what we're seeing with clients too, one that comes to mind for me, it's a client that we've worked with for a long time, but just like every single organization out there, they're challenged with finding talent, finding the right talent, and finding enough talent. And so we worked on a very large project with them in their private cloud environment. For them, private cloud, they have public cloud, they have private cloud, which is on-prem, spanning multiple data centers. But they had a very talented team there. And I think, a long time ago when you used to talk about automation, some people would get scared because people think my job is going away. And how we really position and talk with our clients now is, how do you free up the resources, your employees' resources, time, energy, and upskill them, retrain them, reskill them to go focus on being able to drive more value to the business. So the client I'm talking about, global organization, I'll call it professional services area, but we help them automate tasks that they were probably 7,000 to 8,000 manual tasks a month that they had a myriad of people touching and doing something on. You had people not only waiting for the alert, then going to telling to somebody about the alert, then going to take action on the alert, then logging the remediation of that, and then doing report outs to management every week, every month on what they were seeing and what they were doing. Well, imagine if you have 8,000 of those tasks every single month. That I think I just named 5 processes there that they were involved in. If that all goes away, you don't then have to, those people shouldn't go away. Then you can invest in them to go retrain and reskill, to go focus on where the business needs them at. And so some of the other solutions that we've talked about, right? You think about our traditional networking teams and security teams and how they're evolving in the world of zero trust and all this. The same thing can be said about every single part of technology. And so, being able to redeploy and retrain those folks that are working in their private and cloud environment to go focus on their public cloud environment, and go focus on networking or cloud on-ramp or security. I mean, there's huge intrinsic value there, for one, the organization, but then two, the employee, because they know that their employer now has invested in them to go deepen and expand their skills. So that's just a case that I highlight a lot internally, because I think that can be copied and repeated amongst many organizations out there. It just takes the time and the planning to actually go execute it.
Absolutely. A great example. And I think sort of our next trend really involves taking advantage of things to drive your automation even further. And I don't think any presentation about trends would be complete without talking about AI. I think we've really progressed as an IT organizations from, I need to do an AI project, I need to implement Hadoop, I need to have data scientists, and I need to go start looking at all my data, to, okay, how does AI really benefit my day-to-day work? And so we are seeing a lot of AI showing up in a lot of places, but it's usually AI-assisted technologies that we're involved with in some way. We've talked a lot about observability, all the things that you need to keep track of, automation, all the things that you need to pull together. If I take all of those things and throw them in a dashboard or create automation that's always a button for somebody to go click, we have accomplished something, we've made progress, but we haven't accomplished the real goal, which is to simplify the things that can be easily standardized, that we can have understandings about. There's just no way, with the complexity of some of the applications that our businesses are writing, and the ways that we're interacting with some of our clients, we're all interacting with our clients, that can be handled by just people looking at a screen and figuring things out. So getting AI capabilities into your processes, into the tools and technology that you're utilizing to support observability, to support automation, to support backup and recovery, to be able to identify threats, to be able to identify anomalies. All of these things are linked together, and AI becomes the icing on the cake, so to speak. You've got to have the foundation to be able to take advantage of these things. And some solutions will get you quite a bit of AI value pretty quickly in a narrow area. But much as Bo mentioned around zero trust, you have to start someplace in little pieces. And AI is less about adopting AI than ensuring that any products and solutions you're looking at that have an appropriate level of complexity, or dealing with appropriate level of complexity, have the AI capabilities built in to make the simplification happen for you. So that's our top 5 trends for 2022 that we're expecting to see out in the marketplace and are constantly talking to clients about. And Bo, I think you mentioned that there was a top 6th trend.
Yeah, and I thank you, Michael. And I think it's all of these things we've talked about. It's it's helping the business and technology operate differently. And we'd be remiss if we didn't also then talk about how you do that from a financial aspect. And so for so long, and unfortunately in many organizations, that's still this way. And I think it's going to continue to change very quickly, but technology has always been viewed as a cost center. I never think of it that way. I always view technology as an enabler to the business to grow faster, to evolve, and to be more competitive. And what I always say, to beat the competition. And I think we're seeing that more and more, as you see many organizations from a myriad of industries saying, we're not a tire company, we're not a water bottle company, we're a technology company. And obviously, that means something different for each of those leaders and organizations. But I think, from a financial aspect and from a technology aspect, they're saying technology is going to drive our business to help us be more competitive. Well, as part of that, then you have to not only just say that and think about that, but what are the underlying pieces of that? So if you do have on-premise data centers or private cloud environments, we're seeing a huge shift from moving from CapEx models where I'm acquiring lots of stuff and building out environments for 3 to 5 years to more of an OpEx standpoint where we're building environments and scaling them as we grow, or pay to grow, or different types of financial models and mechanisms there. So I think that's going to continue to accelerate here in 2022. I think we have a lot of you've seen the public cloud data, and we talked about that, the public cloud spend increasing. We don't see a ton of this. We do see a little bit of repatriation of data where, maybe the cloud environment grew and organization brings it back on-prem to operate it differently, or they're doing it because of financial reasons. So I don't know that we're going to see a huge push of repatriation of data, but I do think we're going to see a bigger push and focus on what are we spending on our cloud environments. So as shadow IT or as line of business IT has grown, and so, we're starting to see organizations now aggregate their cloud spend and saying we can do this better. And it's not only saying we can save 20, we know we can save 10 or 20 or 30% of what we're spending there, but they're implementing tools and solutions to be able to do that. And so giving the business line of sight into where we are spending, how we can take advantage of reserved instances or other offerings that the cloud providers have to better optimize that spend. I think that's going to be a huge push here this year. And then finally, take it back 15 years and call it whatever you want. Fit for purpose or best place for best workload, pick your term. That is going to become more and more critical, because as organizations are figuring out, it's not one size fits all. And so where is the best place for this data, this application, this workflow? Is it on-prem? Is it off-prem? Is it a third-party provider? Is it complete outsourcing? Whatever that model is, I think you're going to see more and more focus on, we're not just saying we're all in here, we're all in here. It's fit for purpose. And then being able to have the agility and the ability to shift that strategy as business conditions change. So, I think everything, as we talked about from the beginning, around data protection to zero trust, automation to AI, they all have a different underpinning from how people will be looking at it from a financial aspect and how it's going to drive efficiency for the business and help us be more competitive. So if we had, Michael and I talk about this a lot, if that's our top business tech trend for 2022, it's business as we emerge into, I hate to say it, our new world, our new reality after the last 2 years of the pandemic. Now the focus is going to be on growth and being competitive. And we in technology have to enable our organizations to do that. So again, thank you all for being here with us. Michael, thank you for sharing your insights here.